And yes, we are live. Who is excited to be live with me today? Alrighty. So my name is Wendy Ologi, and I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy. Today, we're going to be discussing preparing your children for puberty even before they get there. One of the most interesting things I've seen in parenting is parents waiting until the time comes before they actually start to run helter skelter. Many of the times you find out that most of these parents do not get prepared. So I usually say that it's because we don't prepare for war at war. We prepare for war even before we get to war. If you can see me, you can hear me. Let me see you. Write in the comment section, tell me that you can see me. Alrighty. Tell me that you can see me. Tell me that you're here. Whenever we start the conversation around puberty, it agitates a lot of parents, right? It, you know, it just puts you in a place. All right. Yeah, there's focus. I'm looking at the comment section and I can't help but laugh. Focus. Let's do the class. All right. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. I see you all. Okay. But let's move. All right. Now, when you actually look at the statistics on porn addiction, you will find that African countries are among the first five countries globally. Is that shocking? African countries are among the first countries on porn addiction, for children globally. And many times when we talk about it, quite a number of us actually say to ourselves, "Oh no, it's not part of it." Or some people even say, "Oh no, it's not an African thing," and all the things that we say, about the things that happen that we shouldn't even be found saying. We say them because we do not actually know, we've not looked at the root, all right, of some of those things. So most people think that gender confusion, hmm, when you look at gay porn, go and look at the statistics where Nigeria is, or even Cameroon, Ghana, all right? So it is interesting to note that at puberty, there's a lot of, right? There's um, um, a lot of stuff that happen, right, around puberty that confuses people, right? TK, I'm actually in a very rest mode. Thank you for that. Okay. Now, when you x-ray some of these things, most people think that this whole gender confusion is not our thing. This whole, oh, my children don't feel that way. One of the things you want to know is that when it comes to puberty, every child at some point questions a lot of things. So it's not a sole preserve of the whites or the blacks, it's just a human nature and the way that it is that the human being has actually been created. All right. Hi, Tracy. All right. Now, the only way that we actually can get out of the happening in this area is actually to get knowledge, prerequisite knowledge for parenting in the 21st century. And the typical age range that girls start puberty is actually 7, but it's been found to even be lower than that. So, in many countries or in many nations, that has also been found to be affected by the nutrition that your children are eating. Have you realized that's one? Nutrition is one. Have you realized that there are a lot of children, girls, by 6, you see them budding breast. By 7, you see them, going through some kind of puberty. By 8, nutrition has been proven to be one of the determining factor for early puberty. And let me also shock you. Early puberty is not particularly something that we should be excited about, because early puberty can predispose a child to so many ills later on in life. Time won't permit me to actually go into that. I shared and explained that in my book, Walking Your Child Through Puberty. And many times, because we do not know, in fact, these are some of the things that we celebrate. Now, another factor for early puberty are children, daughters. For girls, a huge factor, determining factor for early puberty is absenteeism of fatherhood. When fathers are absent, girls go into puberty early. Now, I want you to close your eyes to take just a guess, right? Statistics around you, and just think about it as to when girls went into puberty, were the fathers involved? I'm not talking about being alive or being there. I mean having a father figure who is very involved. You find out that the girls who go into puberty from 12, 13, 14 actually have a very involved father. Look at the analysis. Again, I'm not talking about fathers who are there. I'm talking about involved fathers. And you begin to actually find out that children who have absent fathers, there's actually a hormone that is secreted around the home if the father is involved in the life of a child. And then that actually sends signals to the brain of a child, of a girl child. The brain tells, the whole system, oh, we're not ready, we still have protection. Now, the thing is, the girl child is built to be protected at all times. So it's either she's being protected by her father or by another male figure. And when that thing is removed at an early stage, it can actually, so the brain gets triggered to say, you know what, we're ready to actually go find some kind of other protection. And development, bodily development is actually part of, the whole process. I'm trying very hard not to confuse you. I'm trying very hard not to confuse you, but convince you that, fathers being around can be a huge determining factor, for the girl child. Because I was trying to talk about early puberty, and I was also trying to talk about, puberty and what it is that we see today. So now for boys go into puberty. Thank you so much, Dr. Happiness, for that. All right. So, I said that we should try and have um, some kind of some kind of statistics to check what it is that I'm talking about. Now, these statistics, I just said you should have a rough, statistics around you of what it is that happened, growing up and all of that. You will find out that what I'm saying is true. Just take your time. You can take your time after the class to actually look at it and see how it is that it works. All right. Somebody said you're on point and I get it. Okay. I hope that we get that. Okay. All right, great. Okay. So now the typical age for boys to go through puberty, it's about 9. Right now, we're also seeing a reduction. Now, there has been a study, not widely verified. I am still looking at it as well myself. It's still ongoing on screen time and its effect on puberty. So you now begin to actually take a look at it, right? And the effect is still an ongoing study, so I'm not going to actually just use it for this conversation yet. When it's all verified and it's all out there, then I'm going to also link it up and talk about it. Now, a lot of parents, if you start puberty conversation before your child reaches puberty, you need to actually start it as soon as you have a child. So you start the moment your child is actually born. Now that's sex conversation. But when it comes to puberty conversation, you need to begin to look at how these affect the child using the different, sides, different, parts um, of the conversation, right? Now, the first thing you want to understand is to understand puberty and even get to um, get to even give your children the groundwork. I call it the groundwork of what to expect physically, emotionally. Most of our children are going through puberty and do not know what it is emotionally, right? Emotionally, for it. Okay, so Joe is saying my dad wasn't available and I was almost 16. So sometimes there could be there are exceptions, of course, to all of this, studies. But when you look at it in a very large statistics, you find that to be true. Okay, so that could be it, and that could also be that there was someone who was there, right, who could fill in those gaps. Okay. Now, a lot of people come to me to ask, how do I start? When do I start? How do I begin to tell my child, my daughter, okay, about all of these things, that happen? Remember, Joe, let me also make a comment on that. Remember that I said earlier that that's not the only determining factor. That nutrition, there are like about 4 determining factors for early puberty. Nutrition can be, a thing. Genetics can also be a thing, right? It's been found that the kind of food, you find out that the children, the African American children actually go into puberty earlier than the Caucasian children, right? So it could be a race. There's a race determining factor as well. And then there is also the nutrition determining factor. You find out that the things that the children are eating today is also affecting what it is. There's this rapid kind of development because of what we're eating. And when you look at what we're eating, you find out that most of it actually are wrong. All right. I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm sure that if we have one, that person will be able to confirm that. This is just a personal study. Now, when we talk about cumulative advantage in parenting, it also applies to this cumulative advantage. A child who started having these conversations at a very early age will have an advantage over the child who didn't have this conversation until they turn 10. I'm going to give a very typical example with my own daughter, who was 2 when we started talking about vaginal health. You've heard me talk about that, all right? Very many of the times. So you find out that she became more confident. Now, our daughter didn't see her period very early. She was the last in her set in her class to see her period. So it was interesting. And it happened that for every time there were conversations in the class, people wanted to make her feel left out. But she knew why it is that she was going through the process. I've been able to teach her from age 2. We started talking about vaginal health, menstruation, talking about the different kind of stuff that could happen to her body. And the interesting thing. So there are a lot of people who are ignorant about this conversation everywhere. And whenever he says that, so one of the teachers came into the class one of the days and said, "Oh, if you have not seen your period and you're in this class, there's something wrong with you." And my daughter said, "No, there's nothing wrong with me." And this is why, and why she had to actually school her and say, "No, this is why, and why, and why it's possible that I have, not seen my own period." Now, if your child is not educated, your child is going to fall into the wrong hands. You will hear things like, "Oh, if you allow somebody to touch your breast, your period will come out early." I don't know if you heard all of those things. The things that the area sisters tell you or the area brothers. Cycle parents, are you here? The area sisters and the area brothers. They now begin to advise you. They begin to tell you things that you could try. I was listening to one of my staff recently, and I was like, "What did you hear about sex conversation?" Right? The one of my staff, she said, "Oh, they said if you rub India hem on your pubic area, you will grow hair." So imagine right? All of those things that they actually tell children. Yes, when you when you have sex, you will not have cramps. Area sisters, area brothers, they come up with all sorts of things. Your peers. I shared a story this morning on my timeline, right? And I was saying that a friend of mine, a bosom friend of mine, came to me when I was 13. We were 13 going to 14. She had just seen blood between her legs. She didn't know what it was, right? And she didn't know what it was. And she ran to my house. So before then, she had a boy touch her, big hug her, something of that nature. So she was scared. She didn't know she was going through, she was seeing her period. I hadn't seen my period then, but I had a faint idea. Now, of course, one of those, both of us couldn't talk to our parents. Sad reality. I couldn't ask my parents, oh, this is what is happening too. And mind you, my parents were not bad parents, right? They were very great parents. So it's not about, oh, I'm great, I'm not great, and all of that. That is beyond that. It's a knowledge gap. So I knew that we've never had that kind of, conversation, right? I never had that kind of conversation. And I couldn't go to them. So when the blood was dripping, I just called her and sat her down and said, so what do we do? And all of that. She couldn't talk to her mom. She walked up to all the way. Imagine a peer, a 13-year-old, telling a 13-year-old give it for advice. So what did we do? We went and found one of those area sisters who advised us on what to do and all of that. So it is important. I learned about sex at teenage camp I attended. Two of my roommates lost their virginity and they were bragging about it. That's it. So you have your peers, you put your children, you predispose them to finding out a lot about with their peers. And many times people will say, no, I'm there, I'm always there, I'm putting my children and all of that. The day our daughter saw her period, she was not home. She was not home. She was in a camp. And imagine if she didn't know what, by the time our daughter was turning 9 to 10, she started to carry pads around. She had a pad at every point in time in her bag. Whether she was going to church, to school, it was compulsory to have at least 3 pieces of pad in her bag. And the day she saw her period, she actually had pads in her bag. I wasn't there. Nobody was there. She just brought it out, cleaned up herself, put it on. She didn't even tell anybody until she got back. She knew exactly what to do. See, when you have knowledge, when you prepare a child with knowledge, the child doesn't panic. Because if in that camp, if that happened to her, she didn't know what was happening, she might go and talk to one girl, and the girl would just say, no, that's it. Maybe you just need a boy to just, touch it or something. And then that would be it. That would be it. So it is important, right? It is important that we begin to actually equip our children, boy, girl. Knowledge actually dispels fear. Somebody help me write that in the comment section. Knowledge dispels fear. When you prepare a child with knowledge, the child does not have panic and the child will not make mistakes. So it's your duty to actually, just like your son, when a boy sleeps and then sees that, there is sperm coming out, wet dreams. Some children wake up, some boys wake up and panic. Some of their friends tell them that, oh, you need to actually just, shake it, masturbate a bit so that the thing will. You hear a lot of nonsense. So you need to give your children a parenting advantage to this. Somebody was asking me, I wrote the 2 guides that we gave free for everybody who has registered for Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. And those 2 guides, guided hands and guided fingers. When I started using guided fingers and guided hands, my husband and I, the twins were 2. So right now, our daughter understands vagina hygiene, like everything about it. Most of us, I want you to remember, I just want us to cast our minds, back. You found out that there were girls whose pants smelled, your pants were brown, there were urine on them, There were no, because nobody really taught you. You wore your inner wears twice, and that's why we argue. You know, we put up that argument and say, oh no, you can wear your bra twice before washing it. Who taught you that? Nobody. You just woke up and you just felt, you know what? It's something I'm wearing inside. So when I remove it, I don't need to wash it. I can just keep it and rewear it again. So we just carried it as a norm. You see many men, they reuse their boxers. They reuse their singlets. Why? Because nobody taught them about puberty. Simple puberty. Simple puberty. What is happening in your body? Why this should happen? Simple hygiene. So when you're talking about equipping your children, we're talking about the physiological changes. We're talking about the physical changes. We're talking about the emotional changes. So you need to lay this groundwork early. Number one, how do you prepare your child for puberty? Lay the groundwork early. Early conversation. Importance of starting this conversation early. Begin to tailor the conversation for your child in age appropriateness. So you begin to actually begin to school your child, begin to give them an advantage on hygiene. I was having a conversation with our daughter, and she was saying there are people who wear their underwear twice, and she wondered how that happened. Why? She had knowledge of it. I had a conversation with our son, and he was talking about how that is very common in boys' hostel for them to wear boxers, many times. Why? Nobody taught them. So lay the groundwork early. Start early. Don't say, oh, we're talking about sex educate your child like a pro. And, people are just, wondering, no, I've not, my children have not reached. They are not so age. They are not this. What you need is actually for your children right now is for you to start preparing them. This is actually absolutely so important. Start preparing your children. One of the best things you can do for your children is to prepare them. Prepare them for this journey. Equip them. So let them start early, create comfort, underlaying the groundwork. Create comfort. How do you create comfort? From day one, as young as your child is 1, 2, start creating the comfort that they can actually come to you. Start creating that open room. That's why when you get into the Intentional Parents Academy Inner Circle program, you start with connection. You don't start with teaching. We don't teach sex conversations in December when you get in. I know people getting into the inner circle with the mindset of that's the only thing I want to learn. That's the only thing that is missing. That's not the only thing that is missing, unfortunately. There's a lot missing in your parenting that you actually are not dealing with. So when you are able to connect, a child you don't connect with, you cannot have sex or puberty conversations with. They will shut you out. The reason is simple, because it's a personal thing. It's about my body. I don't want to get uncomfortable with anybody who is not comfortable with me in the other areas of my life. The third part of laying the groundwork is look for age-appropriate resources. Affect Educate Your Child Like a Pro. We're going to also be laying out. I have the books, Just Educate Your Child Like a Pro, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. You find out that now that we're actually reviewing the books in the inner circle, parents are now beginning to find out so many things about their children they never knew. Yeah. Some parents, their children have been watching porn for years. They didn't know. They didn't know. So it is important that you actually create those connections. What else do you need to do? Number 2, you need to equip yourself first. It's foolishness to think you know everything that you need to raise a child just because you give birth to a child. Let me say that again. It's foolishness to think that you know everything that you need to raise a child just because you gave birth to your child. This is why the scripture says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Unfortunately, we're not equipped with answers. So it's almost impossible to teach what you don't know. If you're like me, you grew up with parents who never mentioned this conversation, you will be a disadvantage to your child if you continue that way. I was telling one day, teaching with the parents in the inner circle, and I said, if you have a problem with calling the name penis, vagina, sex, go to the mirror. Call it 3 times. Penis, vagina, sex. Get used to it. Because you will need a lot of getting used to of those words. Unfortunately, they did us a disservice, telling us that it is, sex is bad, So we're already at a disadvantage. So don't even tell yourself, oh, I know everything. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Oh, I do not need to do. You can't teach what you don't know. And you know the worst part? In this time, it's actually even become worse. It's become worse with the things that we're seeing. Now we now have care to deal with. I was creating a worksheet. Oh, by the way, for those of you who registered for Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro 4.0, the worksheet this year is something else. I was creating the worksheet and I was trying to do some kind of research on gender confusion, on the part of gender confusion. And I found that it is the biggest singular problem of many parents right now, not even pregnancy. Many of us are still at the stage where we're teaching like our parents. Don't allow anybody to touch you. If not, you get pregnant. Pregnancy is the least of your problem today. Unfortunately, there was a statistics of what teenagers said their parents should get worried about. Pregnancy was the least. There was drug. There was self-harm. There was what's it called? Mental health issues. There were gender confusions. And we're still talking about who is getting pregnant and all of that. Today, we're not having girls sell their egg. It is part of the sex conversation. Young girls, not old women. It's part of it. Now, we're not having girls taking drugs through the vagina. It is part of the sex conversation. So until we're equipped with answers, right? The sex conversation our parents gave us were fear-based sex conversation. Fear-based, right? So yeah, Bong, you need to register for Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro. We're going to be breaking all of that down. And no, let me also, respond to that. No, you are not going to be having this conversation with your children altogether. No, it must be age appropriate. Okay? Yeah, so who is excited about the worksheet? Who is excited about the worksheet? The worksheet is on point, on point, on point. I just finished working on it, sent to the team. I was like, and then we're giving too much for this. Is it some people paid 3K, some people paid 4, now 5K. For this 4,999, they are getting too much. And of course, we're very happy to actually give you because we want you beyond just, we just want you to come to class. We want you to come to class and implement. That's why we're creating the worksheet. We don't want you to just, because it's a virtual system, we don't want you to just come to class and just say, hey, oh, I suppose, just feel disarmed. No. We want you to be armed to actually run the race. So have you registered for Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro? If you have, let me see you say, yeah. Let me see you say, yeah. Let me see you say that. If you haven't, say no, so that we can tell you what to do. All righty. Let me see the number of people who haven't registered for Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro. Right? We have only 313 people here listening to me. Have you invited someone to come and listen to me? Right? In the Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro alone, we have 6,000 registered participants. Have you invited someone to come here register? What if the children are twins and same sex? Do you have conversation with them same time? It depends. This question you're asking me is a question that I'm paid money to answer. Yeah. All right, but it depends. Come to Sex Educate Your Child like a Pro. If you haven't registered, I can see people saying no. Yeah, as in, are you right on this planet at all? Please do not say no. Look at the link, look at the details on my screen. All right, and simply just put in and send in your fee right? People have been asking us for PayPal, for Zelle, and all of that. You can use my email address when you log it to do that. All right. If you're paying outside of Nigeria, or you can use the link also in our bio, all right, to actually make that payment. All right. Thank you so much. It's not girls that have womb that will be pregnant. That's a good one. Okay. So if you haven't registered, here are the details right here. Have you invited someone? Have you invited someone? If you haven't, let me see you run to invite someone now so that we can continue. Now, the sex conversation our parents gave us is fear-based. It's fear-based sex conversation. When you give your children fear-based conversation, you are disempowering them instead of empowering them. Let me say that again. When you give your children fear-based sex education, you are disempowering them instead of empowering them. So sex conversations must be not with fear. It cannot, you can't do it with fear. The sex conversation our parents gave us were fear-based. When you give children fear-based sex conversation, you disempower them instead of empower them. Because all they will do and will act will be out of fear. Out of fear. All right? Chidima said, I've registered for sex educate. Sex educate like your child like a pro have not started, ma. Sex educate your child like a pro is starting on the 1st of July. So if you registered, chill and start. And of course, you also have access for those who have already registered to Sex Educate Your Child 2.0. Go and listen to it and start from there. It's going to help you. Alrighty. You must understand that when it comes to sex conversation, it's not about policing your child. Somebody help me write that. When it comes to sex conversation, it's not about policing your child, controlling them, or instilling fear. It is about empowering them. Do you know that? So I created the 100 phrases, 100 wrong phrases parents say to their children when it comes to sex conversation. 100 of them. When you tell your children things like, when anybody touches you, come and tell me. Fear-based. Do you know? Immediately anybody just touches you, make sure you tell me immediately. You have disempowered your child. You are trying to police your child and you're not trying to empower the child. So it's not about policing your child. It's not about saying, oh, my children will not go for sleepover. I've heard people say that. Trash. My children will not go for sleepover. My children will never go and talk to anybody. Oh, my children will never I will not bring people to my house. Oh, that is you actually policing. Am I saying that you should not create structures to actually mitigate these things? No. I am saying that instead of just doing that, empower your child. So when you say, boy, maybe somebody touches you, just come and tell me. So the child was asked, we were in a session, and this child was asked, why didn't you tell your mom when this thing happened? Or why didn't you leave the place? She said, no, my mom told me that when anybody touches me, I must tell her first. So there were other adults, but I couldn't tell them until my mom came, and I needed to finish. So the child stayed there, abused for 30 minutes because they needed to tell their mother. That's you policing your child. That's not you empowering your child. So what we're teaching as sex educate your child like a pro is to help you empower the child on what to do, not self-fear. Don't let anybody touch your private part. Don't let anybody, it is you actually selling fear. Don't ever have sex with any man until you get married. You are just selling fear. You're not selling value. You need to actually be able to sell value. That's fear-based. Don't talk to strangers. Strangers, you are selling fear. Every time I ask the parents in the house, I go, did you know me before? Am I not a stranger? So what you should be doing is how your child will make choices is about how empowered they are or feel. So when your child is making choices, the choices your child will make by time is according to the skills they built, according to the knowledge they have, and according to how empowered and confident they feel about a thing. So when you actually begin to think about control, policing, it's going to be a mess. People will molest your child and you will hear nothing. So this conversation is about empowerment. It's about getting the child to own. It's about ownership of self. Ownership. It's not about you, making decisions. It's about ownership of self. People are asking me, your 2-year-old, can they own themselves? Yes. Yes. You can build a confident 2-year-old on this conversation. I have seen 2-year-olds who have walked up to their parents to say to them, this person was actually playing with my body. There's something that we say in the inner circle. We teach parents, of toddlers, say to your child, my body is not a toy. No part of my body is a toy. And I've seen toddlers tell their mother, oh, uncle was playing with my body. My body said, my body is not a toy. Why was he doing that? So you can actually empower your child. A 2-year-old, the uncle was trying to tickle her. She said, no, don't do that. My body is not a toy. That's empowerment. You say, oh, when I come, anybody that touches you on your private parts, come and tell me. That's you selling fear, and that's you actually being ignorant because you do not have enough knowledge to sell, to educate, to empower. So stop policing your child. Stop controlling your child. You need to empower them with skills. So the choices your child will make will be about the empowerment, how empowered they feel, what it is that is happening to them per time. The skills they've built. So the moment you begin to actually self-value, right, you begin to actually, build your child, coordinate your child, get your child to understand what it is that they need to do per time. Instead of studying fear. Hey, when you just dance, that's it. You're even afraid of your daughters sitting on their father's lap because you're setting all kinds of fears. Except you have a father who is a predator. Then, of course, that person should be reported. I'm not trying to actually, concoct a lot of things. And many of the times, one of the things that happen to us is that because of where we are coming from, some of us have been molested. Some of us have been, a lot of things have happened to us. So we are now afraid. Somebody said, "Oh, my uncle tried to molest me. Hey, that's why I don't allow any uncle to touch my children." What does that even mean? That's trauma. Trauma is making a judgment call for you and your generation. Come on. Trauma, what you're doing. So you need to deal with yourself first. I've shared this story countless times. I've had 2 near rape experiences. And I'm not afraid to share it anywhere. Why? I have been able to deal with it. If you don't deal with your past, it deals with you. I've been able to deal with it. One was my dad's friend. Another was a priest, a family friend. I was only 13 or 14. No, I'm not paranoid about my 14-year-old being in an uncle's house. No, I'm not. Because my 14-year-old is well equipped. I'm paranoid about my 14-year-old son getting into an auntie's house. No, because my 14-year-old son is well equipped. Much more than me. I was when I was 14. So I would rather build a skilled child knowledge and empower them. What if you die? What is, no, that's why I protect my children. If you are not a sex educated child like a Pro 4.0, you are wrong. Hey, do not even miss it. Don't miss it. This is just, a tip of the iceberg. I did a research. It took me about 6 months researching and also from experiences, from the things that I've read. 100 phrases, parents, wrong phrases you use when actually having sex conversations. We're going to be dealing with it. All right. Now, when you empower your children, they are able to make decisions irrespective of your presence. When you disempower your children, you make them dependent on you. And that's not the aim of sex conversation. Let me say that again. When you empower your children, somebody help me put that in the comment section. When you empower your children, they are able to make decisions irrespective of your presence. When you disempower your child, you make them dependent on you. And that is not the aim of sex conversation. Your children are not supposed to depend on you to make decisions. When you do that, you have disempowered your child. Are you getting the fire? You feeling it? Let me see you share the fire emojis if this is hitting the right point. Yes, 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 yes. You see why you need to be in the academy. You know, we're teaching the parents in the inner circle, and we're talking about body safety plans. You know, we do we're a document, you know, kind of system. We don't just leave and do parenting anyhow. No, anyhow parenting is not, there's no anyhowness in what it is that we do, including in our parenting. There's no anyhowness. So in the academy, we're detailed, we put things together, we make sure that we're following systems. See, what you need is to create systems, structures. That's what you need. You do not need to actually come and be panicking. Hey, they said, every day that we share, we usually share, we share words in the academy for learning purposes. And then every time that we share, what maybe once in a while, share one in the public, I see the panic in the faces of the public. And it's so disheartening. It's so disheartening. So one of the things you do not want to, you should parent in any way without knowledge in the dispensation. You do it, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. Somebody is asking, my 1 year old too, your 1 year old should not be dependent on you to make decision on the body, on their body. That's what body safety is about. So if your children understand body safety, they won't need you to make decisions for them. But unfortunately, the kind of first conversation you're still giving is the one that allows you to actually make decisions. So you also need to learn about conversations that determine sex choices. Sex conversation is not about the mechanics of sex. Somebody help me write that. I'm sure you're listening to this, you're wondering, what is it? They will teach my children about sex. No, it has nothing to do with sex. You might not even hear anything about sex. You don't even need to say, oh, this is how sex happens. These are your conversations will be so clear that your children would understand how to make decisions themselves. That's the basics of sex conversation. That's the basics of what we teach. So we're not teaching sex. We're teaching the things, the 10 self-concepts that make up the sex conversations. What are these 10 self-concepts? You can find them in my book, Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, Volume 2, right? You can get them on Amazon. You can get them anywhere you are in Nigeria. But two of the major self-concepts, you have self-preservation, you have self-control, you have self-esteem. Any sex conversation you're having with a girl child and you're not building their self-esteem is null and void. Any sex conversation you're having with a boy child and you're not building self-control is null and void. Why do you think we have men, married men, who are cheating randomly everywhere? What do you think happened? It's lack of the appropriate sex conversation. It's a problem of self-control. It's not the devil. So those will go and pray, war room, let the man stop cheating. The man just lacks self-control. The man is indisciplined. It's simple and short. So until we get that really, all right, nothing really changes. So we need to understand it from the rudiments. All right. Number 3, you need to teach body awareness and self-esteem. Body awareness and self-esteem. That's number 3. Teach them about their body, the anatomy, the functions. Normalize body changes and differences. Normalize it. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay. It is absolutely fine. It's okay. Teach them about body image, positive body image. You see, the media is one of your biggest influencers when it comes to sex conversation. And when we talk about promoting body images, we're talking about combating negative media influences. I'm going to be teaching on that at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, right? And we're going to actually be running through it. And now, any sex conversation you do without self-identity, when it gets to puberty, your child becomes confused of who they are. So they will not know whether they are male, female. It comes. It's not whether it's devil. It's there. It is what combats it. What you can actually use to deal with it is self-identity from day one. From day one. So body awareness, self-esteem, promoting body, positive body image and all of that. What are your children watching on media? What are they seeing? What can they see? These things are important. And I'm also going to be talking about, hygiene education. We've already started it. We share the guided fingers and the guided hands. That's typical of hygiene education. So if you don't have the guide, you should know how to get the guide in your group. If you've already registered for Text Educate Your Child Like a Pro, once you register, you get the guided fingers and guided hands, and you can begin to use it now, today, to start running through with your child. To start running through with your child to actually begin to understand about hygiene. Puberty and hygiene go hand in hand. Skincare, how to actually put yourself together. Sometimes you pass, and I've said it, I hate smells with passion. See girls smelling. Even if you're adult girls, women like you and I, just see some kind of smell from pant, urine that drops on pant, or bra that is not washed, or those kind of very little smell. You think that putting perfume all over is going to mask it. It doesn't mask it. It's still smelling, dear woman, dear man. That singlet you wore yesterday and you didn't throw it into the wash, and you just felt, I did not sweat. But you removed the cloth on top of it and washed it. I didn't wash the singlet inside. It's smelling, sir. We can smell it. Some of us can actually smell it. So yes. So you get the guided fingers, and so hygiene education is important. Somebody said, is it self-generation or self-identity generation thing? Because in our time, I don't have confusion about who I am. No, many of us did. We were raised to be very hypocritical about many things. Many of us did. Many people did, right? About might not necessarily be in that extreme, because today media has also now elevated some of the things. So there's that mere experience. Of course, if you watch War on Children, you can see how the media have been used to also elevate these things. So these are tiny stages of human different human issues, all right, and all of that, right? Okay, so different human issues and all of that, and all the things that happen through. But this has now been, it has now been loaded out. If you watch that documentary, you will see where one of the boys said, I didn't know there was anything like changing of sex. I just felt I'm not really up to myself. Sometimes this gender confusion come as a self-esteem issue. Yeah. This gender confusion sometimes come as you're looking at your brothers being given preferential treatment, and you're just thinking, I'm a boy. Not that it's going to. So in our time, we didn't have anything to support those things, those thoughts. But today, there are things to support them. You wish you're a boy, you turn, and somebody is telling you about changing yourself to a boy. So that's the difference. All right. So that's important for you to note. Okay. Then you need to, I've talked about teaching self-discovery, the 10 self-concept, right? You need to also understand communication strategies. There has to be a strategy. There has to be a strategy for your children to actually understand what it is that it's happening and the process of this conversation. So in my home, I was sharing the other day with the parents the inner circle. How do I join the inner circle? Look at this thing that is scrolling on that. You will see the details to join the inner circle. The inner circle costs 100,000 a year. You can book with 5,000 naira now and pay in installment before the 1st of December. But you need to book. If you don't book, you might not be able to get in, because we have quite a number of people on the wait list as we speak. So yes, for a single person is 100,000 per annum. For a couple is 170,000 per annum. So communication strategy. You need to understand what kind of communication to use. I'm going to be teaching on communication on the first day of Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, because I've realized that even in our communication, you find out that many parents don't even know what it is to say. Sometimes you are not even honest. You think that being dishonest about sex conversation is what empowers the child. It will disempower the child. And because we are even in an information era, Because we're in information era, it makes it even more difficult. More difficult. So if you do not communicate appropriately, you do your child a disservice. If you use the wrong phrases, you do your child a disservice. If you say things that you shouldn't say, you do your child a disservice. So understanding the communication strategy for each age becomes important. Do you know that for a toddler, something as simple as you're teaching body safety, and you just teach something as simple as my body is not a toy, and they get it. That's all you need. So it might just be, this is, for this each of the stage, there has to be a strategy. There has to be a strategy. So there has to also be continuity. So part of what we do in the academy is that we get parents to not just attend sex educate your child like a pro, get them to create a sex conversation strategy. Now, the difference with you and the person who is in the inner circle program is that in the inner circle, we hold you accountable. Outside of there, when you attend, we give you all the resources that is required, but you find out that sometimes, life just overwhelms you. But if you're in a system, it actually helps you and you are able to be taught to be held accountable. So I would advise that you actually get into the system that you're accountable. All right. So this is very important for you to also begin to look at it. So there has to be structure. So and then set conversation. This puberty conversation must not be ahead today. You have reached puberty. Sit down. Let me teach you. My daughter and I had vaginal health conversation every week until she left secondary school. And when she comes back till today, we still do it. I was telling the parents in the inner circle about the School of Elegance, something my daughter and I do on a weekly basis. So right now, currently, I am not in the country. I am having these conversations with my daughter and my son. Their dad is having a conversation with our daughter and our son. So there's no excuse. The excuse is the one that you give. The excuse is the one that you choose. The excuse is the one that you want to have. The one that you want to have. So wherever you are, you can get these virtual, classes. Attend the classes. The beautiful thing about Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro or any of our courses is that it's online. You can wake up and connect anytime that you can. I'm teaching now. It is morning in my time. It's afternoon in some part of the world. It is night in some parts of the world, excuse me. And yet, people can wake up anytime and decide to take the teaching at their time. So it's about choices. It's about decisions. And you don't have any. It's the one that you allow. It's the one that you give. The one that you have. So your excuse, like I tell the parents in the inner circle, is tenable, but never gives you result. So if you're listening to me, you're wondering, this class, are you sure I'll be able to come live? Are you sure I'll be able to do this? Are you sure I'll be able to do that? We have parents from all over the world who join classes at different times, right? Who join classes at different times. And you can, also set out a time to join your class. Oh, I'm very busy. Oh, I'm working. You know the truth. You know the truth. The time your child is leaving now, they will never leave it again. That's the unfortunate thing. That's one thing that leads me. I can decide, I'm away. I just, leave it. After all, there's a time for you to rest and all of that. But you no get rest, unfortunately. Parenting is a continuum. The things you miss today, these things you miss today, you might not be able to recover them tomorrow. The appropriate sex conversation you're supposed to give at age 2, you miss it at age 2. You can't give the age 2 anymore. For those of us who have missed it, whose children are already 10. So instead of sitting down and say, okay, coach, I said, let's start now. Start running. Start running because your life depends on it. When it comes to parenting, you can't, there's nothing like the children should wait. Let me go and do, my own run of life. When I get to the ladder, then I'll come back. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Nobody can wait for you. You bat an eyelid, a child turns in 2 days. And that's why one of the things that when you get into the inner circle, we have an affirmation. The first thing you say to yourself is, I have time to parent my child. It's a choice. It is a choice. I am extremely busy. Extremely. From here, I'm going to be in the UK for a conference, speaking, and I'm going to now be back again. I am extremely busy. But it doesn't stop parenting. It's not going to turn my children to stop growing because I'm claiming to be busy. I am claiming. There's nothing like that. In fact, it was the governor, thank you, TK, who was teaching at the Fathers Conference. And he said, you grow from being a man to being a leader, to being a father, and then to being an angel. When you transit into the angelic mood of parenting, that's the part where your children are gone and you begin to play angelic roles. I can't even explain it in this class. You begin to play angelic roles. Sometimes in prayer, sometimes in rescue of different things. Spiritual rescue, physical, emotional, different things. So you need to make a choice. You need to make a decision. So when people come to me and say, I work 24 hours. I just smile. Because my time, I'm sure, I wish I could just, put a screenshot of what my calendar looks like in the next 10 days. Sometimes I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay. But in it, I am remembering that, hey, woman, you have children to raise. My husband and I have rules of what it is, how to be away, when you can be away, how it is that you can do. All of this actually helps us to put in structure on what it is that we're doing. So don't sit down and just say, oh, this thing coach is saying, she's saying it because she does not have time. Oh, she does this. Oh, she doesn't have, I do not think. If you bring your shadow, let me bring my shadow. Let's compare. Can't be busier. I can assure you. You can't. The truth of the matter is we are all doing something, busy running around, running the trying to get all the things, trying to grow in our life. But see, this life no get balance. Where people tell you balance it, you can balance it. You need to make a choice. In the inner circle, we call it essentialism. Choose your heart. Parenting is hard already. You need to choose your heart. Make choices per time. You need to ask yourself, there's a webinar we do in the inner circle called the seasons of life. You need to sit down and ask yourself, in this season of my life, what is most important? There were things I couldn't do when my children were toddlers. No, because I understood that in that season of my life, there were things I needed to do. In this season of my life, I've also been able to put the things in perspective. Choose your heart. And part of your heart is parenting. Unfortunately, there's always something to sacrifice. Is it that you're sacrificing yourself, your marriage, your children, your work, your impact journey, whatever it is per time? Ask yourself, what am I sacrificing? So that your children are not the altar, they are not the burnt offering at every point in time. Oh, some people will say, oh, no, they are not really priorities. We need to set our priorities right. Set our priorities right. And part of our priority is if you run all the runs of life, and at the end of the day, the children you have, there is a problem, right? There is a problem in this. You just get cold because your children are part of your legacy, right? How you raise them, not who they are. How you have raised them. That's part of the legacy that you are, who they become, not what they give you. No. Your children are part of your legacies, not what they give you, but who they become. But who they become. That's the question you want to ask yourself. What if the people dishing quote from Father Conference? Oh, he was a father. He was a father, right? So this is very important. Okay, great time. Attend sex educate your child like a pro. And by the way, who is excited? TIP annual conference is here, right? The TIP annual conference is open. We're gonna do a guess and do who do you think is going to be opening the TIP annual conference session this year? It's been 7 years of TIP annual conference. One of the things that have happened in the academy. So two things that parents do that actually excites me. For sex educate your child like a pro over the years, it's been 4 years now. Parents take leave 5 days of their time, take out some days, sit down with sex educate your child like a pro, and put all of the things together. Take leave for TIP annual conference. Sit down with it, review where they are coming from. I just want you to note that parenting is not for loafers. There's always something to give. There's always something to sacrifice. So what is that thing that is important to you? Are your children part of the game? If it's important for you. So waited for this conference for a year. Are your children part of the game? If your children are part of the game on your process, then you need to be in sex educate your child like a pro. No matter how much you panic, no matter how much you sell, what's it called? You sell fear. No matter how much you say, hey, where do I start from? It changes nothing. What is going to change everything today is the choices you make. It is the knowledge you actually put in you. It is what you are taking in and what you are actually able to. It's not what you are aware of. I was sharing with the parents in the inner circle 2 days ago. I said it's not what you are aware of that changes you. It's actually what it is that you assimilate and do. That's what changes you. So awareness, this is awareness. And I usually say that education is awareness, attention, and advocacy. That's what I've just done today. Awareness, attention, and advocacy. 300 plus people watching me. That's a lot of attention. And at the end of today, we're going to have over 3,000 people watching this video. That's a lot of attention. Advocacy. I've advocated for you to actually come, learn, on puberty, prepare your child for puberty and all of that. And I've done a lot of awareness of some of the things that you don't know. But that doesn't transform you. So education doesn't really transform you. It's wisdom that does. And there is, something there. I want to see you at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. If you haven't registered already, Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro starts in 5 days. The fee is $199. This fee changes tomorrow to $5,999. Right? This fee changes tomorrow to $5,999. You want to register now? Join us Monday, the 1st of July to 5th of July. We're going to be having 5 coaches teach on different topics, and it's going to blow your mind. Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. It's not about the money you pay. By the time you do one day, you get the resources that you have. You will know that you didn't pay for it. You didn't pay for it. You didn't pay for it. TKS awareness. That's it. But I look forward actually to having you and hosting you at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro. And we love July a lot because after the Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, 3 weeks after, we hit the road running. And we are doing the TIP annual conference. Nobody should meet the TIP annual conference. The beautiful thing about the TIP annual conference is that it's absolutely free. Okay, not free. Our partners sponsor it. We have partners who sponsor it. Last year, we had 1,600 million views. 1,600, 1.6 million views. Sorry, 1.6 million views, right? And impressions on YouTube alone. And last year we had 30 speakers. This year we're having about 34 speakers, 7 days of back-to-back. We're bringing you world-renowned speakers, just as always, touching different angles. This year we're having someone speak on, cultism, on self-step parenting, anything it is that you want to think about parenting. That is what you're going to see at the TIP annual conference. And if you want to be part of the sponsorship system, imagine having 1.6 million, impressions on your business, whatever it is that you do. You can reach out to the team and look out for all of the sponsorship, that you can have. It's the biggest online parenting, platform that you would know, right? So you want to be there and begin to put it. I saw Nkonye. Nkonye said after TIP annual conference last year, I ran into the arc. Yes, after TIP annual conference, you don't have a choice but to begin to actually look for where it is that you learn. When you attend TIP annual conference, without having attended a lot of the courses in the academy, sometimes it can actually overwhelm you. All right. But the idea is to create a lot of awareness, a lot of attention, and a lot of advocacy, and also educate you, right, on what it is that you need to learn about parenting basically, and then begin to throttle from there. Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to having you. The next time you're going to be seeing me pop on your screen will be at Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro Volume 4. And if you haven't registered, see the details on my screen grab it, register so you don't pay 5,999 tomorrow. And after tomorrow, you get to pay 15,000 naira. Yes, and that is it. So do not miss it. Join us today so that I can pop on your screen on the 1st, right, of July. Right on the 1st, you're going to see me right on your screen, sharing with you and, looking at all of that. You don't want to be seen in that class. Please don't miss it. Don't miss it for anything. If you want to actually go and look for money, 5,000 paid, please go look for it. It's going to save your life. A parent reached out to me 2 days ago, and she said we could share that story. And she said she met two of her daughters having sex, 10 and 11. She had just registered for sex educated child like bro. Watch the volunteer. I started, implementing, right? Started implementing just a few things that she saw. And that's how she actually found out. Heartbreaking, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we also have a gift for anybody who have attended TIP annual conference 7 times. It's been 7 years. If you have attended from the inception, reach out to us. We have a gift for you. Alrighty. Thank you so much for bringing here. Yes, we play a different kind of game. When we say that the game we play is not the norm kind of game, we play the different kind of game. You can't beat a person who shows up every day. We have shifted from winning to outlasting. CIP is here to outlast you. Thank you so much, everybody, and do have an amazing, amazing day. See you on Monday, the 1st of July. Yes, my name is Wendy Oloki, and I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy. See you on the